I looked into the fact where I put myself in the future on my deathbed, where if you look on your deathbed, would you regret this decision in the moment of your time? And the answer was yes. If I fail real estate, I can always go back to get a job, honestly speaking. And so that made my decision a lot more easier, but it was never an easy decision to make because there's a lot of doubts. When I was going to work, like a software engineering job, I got my job working downtown. And, you know, like obviously everybody has this thought that comes across their minds. Like, I don't want to be doing this for the next 20, 30 years if you do have that thought. Well, that came to me. And I told my parents how my mom works for the next 20, 30 years. I'm like, I don't want to do what she does. It's great and all. And basically a job will always be here in a sense. So I end up, doing one does to start Googling, and I end up finding 3 different industries, or I thought about 3 different industries that would never go out of business as long as humans are around. First one was food. We gotta all eat, and I'm not a good cook, so I'm like, I'm not gonna be opening a restaurant, and they have horrible margins, by the way. The next was clothing, and I'm like, I'm not a designer, nor do I want to be a designer. And then the last one was shelter, which is housing. And my mom has a couple of properties, but she would always tell me that she would never make any money off of them, and I was like, I wonder why. And so I ended up digging into real estate and Googling and all that stuff, and found out like a lot of millionaires have real estate of some sort. And that led me down to more ads, getting fed ads, and one thing led to another. I went down to a funnel, and that funnel was fortune builders for the first time. And I went to their first in-person, like free, more information, and then I ended up being paid. I paid like $100 for the next 2-day workshop, and that 2-day workshop is when they pitch you like a $30,000 education. And so, like me not knowing anything about real estate, I knew that I don't know real estate, so I need to know real estate in order for me to not make those poor decisions, bad judgment calls. And so this is where I coined the term from Alex Hormozi, ignorance tax. I had to pay down my ignorance tax. And so it was a very scary moment, honestly speaking. I had like about $20,000 at the time in my account. I could finance the education through a down payment of $8,000 and the rest on credit cards. And so that's what I did. So, I mean, it's a decision that was not easy made. And how I made that decision was I looked into the fact where I put myself in the future on my deathbed. That whole scenario where if you look on your deathbed, would you regret this decision in the moment of your time? And the answer was yes. If I fail real estate, I can always go back to get a job, honestly speaking. And so that made my decision a lot more easier, but it was never an easy decision to make because there's a lot of doubts involved when if you just got out of depression, there's going to be doubts right afterwards. So I had that going on in my head, but I had a good enough support where for my mom and my brother that they were on board. So it was basically on me. However, I was the only person doing the business, not them. Right. That's what made me join real estate, was the idea of like not working a full-time job the next 20, 30 years, trying to find some passive way of making money, and then, or just being my own boss, honestly speaking, and then hopefully have a family in the next, decade or so after that.
Do you think that course was worth it?
I think it was worth it because it taught me a lot of things that I did not know about real estate, and it taught me basically the ins and outs of real estate all in one platform. Now, you get mixed reviews. It's just a matter of who you're talking to, right, and based on if they actually go and do the work.
100%.
Right. Yeah. So it really is that.
Right. Was it geared towards wholesaling, rentals, flips, or just
flips? It was mostly geared towards flips, but there's a lot of, you can say, strategy they've already added in their course that you would realize, it's also you can do wholesale.
How to find the deals.
Yeah, how to find deals. Yeah. Basically how to run a real estate company from A to Z.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that was my first mentorship, you can say.
Right. And that was 2017, and you got your first deal in 2018.
Yeah.
And that was a wholesale deal?
That was from a wholesaler, yeah. I was from a wholesale deal.
Did you flip it?
I flipped it.
Okay.
So I'll speak to that real quick, because that full year is me just doing my 9-to-5 job, and then right afterwards I would learn and study at night, and then I would literally have mentorship calls, and they'll basically tell me what to do. It's either learn or go to a networking event. Mm-hmm. And at the time, as a software engineer, I'm an introvert, by the way. I'm like naturally introverted. And so me going to talk to people, strangers, and go meet up at this random place, it's terrifying because I have like no idea what I'm talking about. Like I'm just learning, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And what I would speak to that is like, if you guys feel the same way, and if you have the same like introvertness, I would say what got me out of it was my goal. Is your goal big enough to, kill your bullshit, basically, right?
Yep.
Is your why enough to make you cry? Right. If it's not, then you're not there yet. So for me, my why was to start a family by 35 and have financial independence. And if that's not big enough to get me out of my own personal bullshit, then I don't know what is.